come on in. We are going to have an interesting show for you guys today. We've had a couple of delays and things that I promised you to come out this week that are coming out. I just needed to do a little bit more work on them, so forgive me for a lack of space pods this week. But I am SpaceMike. I am joined today by Jared Head, our chief astronomer, who seemingly can't hold it together, and then, of course, our esteemed space journalist, Ryan Caton, Esquire, who is correct about everything. I think that's not in dispute from anyone. So thank you guys both for being here today. And it has been a very busy week. We had Starship that launched on Monday. There is a whole bunch of preparations that are happening for future rockets like New Glenn, Zhuque 3. Even the Russians are working on their next rocket, their Irtish rocket, or otherwise known as Soyuz 5. And a couple of surprise announcements, one that I think we're all looking forward to a bit from Impulse Space, talking about a new lunar lander that they are proposing for the space industry. So a lot of really interesting things to talk about this week. And thank you guys for being here. Come on in. First of all, where is everybody watching from? And again, thank you everybody for being here with us today. So yeah, I know Ryan, you were definitely glued into everything with Flight 11. I was watching that live as well. Jared, did you have a chance to watch that live or to see any of the highlights from that?
So I wasn't watching it live, but because this was our week for our monthly live public show at Griffith for covering it, I did watch it in its entirety. I sat down and I watched it for over the full hour. So
Awesome.
yeah, what an exciting flight.
Absolutely. This was I mean, it's kind of weird because we're getting into the realm
10,
where
9,
I don't know about you guys, maybe
7,
I'm a little early
6,
on this, but I
5,
feel like it's almost
4,
already getting into the
3,
realm of
2,
boring.
1.
Like this was another test, and this was the last of the version 2 of Starship. And
We have liftoff.
Flight that
Go Super Heavy. Go Starship. Thanks for all the historic flights, Pad 1.
I am sorry about that. This shouldn't be playing audio at all.
Well, it very much was.
Sorry about that, everyone. Sorry about that, everyone. I am not sure why that's doing. So I'm going to do one more quick test real quick. And if this blows out your ears, I will stop that. So I'm going to play it again, and it shouldn't have any audio at all right now. Sorry about that. Let's test this.
Take two.
Take two. Sorry, everybody.
There
Can you hear that?
That's good.
Is there any audio from that? Okay, my bad. That's my bad entirely. Anyway, we were talking about how this is the last of the version 2 flights of Block 2 of Starship, and also the last flight that we're going to be seeing from their Pad 1 for a while until they're able to do the changes that they need to do before they are launching from it again. In the interim, they'll begin launching from Pad 2 for future flights with version 3, which as of right now, we're expecting sometime next year. I think everyone's expecting a couple of months right now. Ryan, do you have any other insights on when we might see the next flight?
I think I think it's pretty obvious that Elon is going to be pushing for as early as he can, because that's what Elon Musk does. Although you've got to look at it realistically, the pad, although nearing completion, is still under construction at this point in time. The first Block 3 booster isn't complete yet. They're still playing with test tanks. The first Block 3 ship isn't complete yet. They're still playing with test tanks. So it's not going to be anytime soon. I put it that way. I think Q1 2026 is probably the safest bet you could put right now. But most people's gut is saying kind of the springtime, February, March maybe is the earliest it could be.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm been seeing and been feeling like too. And at this point, I would rather them not rush and make sure that we don't have a lot of the same teething problems that they have had with Block 2. And even if they do, that's okay, because every single time they've been able to collect more data and find out more failure modes. And I think that it's been actually really impressive, despite still not having reached orbit. things are moving right along. I mean, they have twice now been able to do the Starlink demo deployments, and this time was a lot better than the first time. We didn't have any hit the door on the way out, so that was definitely an improvement. And with this one, this was the first time actually that we got to see this crazy banking maneuver to help slow down and reduce a bit of the forces during reentry. And obviously, I was very impressed by the views that we got from that, and that slight fear for that first second of, oh no, is something going wrong? And no, never mind. This is what they were talking about. This is what they intended to do. So really cool to see that. And even on the splashdown for it, incredible views that we were able to get from the buoy cam and the drones that they had. And also really interesting that we see a lot of that same white and orange pattern on there. Yes, they were doing another tests of intentionally having tiles that were missing. And I didn't see a whole lot of stuff ahead of time about experimental tiles or metallic tiles or anything like that. Ryan, did you see anything along those lines of more experimental tiles that we might be seeing this coloration from?
There were no experimental materials testing in the tiles on this flight. They only had the normal tiles and those big patches of removed tiles. But one of the things they did differently this time around with the removed tiles is instead of having that backup ablative material as kind of like the first point of contact, so usually they'd have the tile, the backup ablative, and then the stainless steel. Instead of having that backup ablative behind the removed tiles, it was just bare stainless steel that had been painted black. So that is what we theorize, at least, that the stainless steel oxidizing is what has caused that kind of rusty deposited material to end up on the heat shield. It's less orange because the previous flight was flying some iron tiles, which would oxidize more, but because this is stainless steel, it oxidized a little bit less. So the colors are a little bit different, but we think that is what the deposits have come from, is that exposed stainless steel. And from some of these angles as well, we can see venting coming from places it shouldn't be coming from, which indicates that the actual tanks themselves have been punctured due to the heat forces of re-entry. So that's something quite interesting as well. We can see there that big vent coming from the oxygen tank. That's not meant to be happening, yet it still managed to conduct a safe nominal on-target splashdown, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. And I was even seeing people theorize about how when this replays, you pointed it out that venting at the bottom there, but at the top we see right at splashdown, there's a little bit of flame that's coming out, and I'm not 100% sure, but I am kind of buying what I was seeing about that might have just been coming out, but they're separate tanks, the header tanks for the actual landing splashdown burn. So seems like there wasn't anything wrong with those header tanks, even with that bit of flame that we see spitting out there from the top. So very impressive that despite those things, they, as you said, were able to conduct this pinpoint splashdown right where they intended it to go. So very impressive. For what we were talking about, I think we kind of wrapped up though. Was there any other comments that you guys wanted to talk about with the Flight 11 and what we're looking forward to for the future flights? Cool, good.
All right. Well, I just wanted to say that it's really nice to see version 2 recover from the early failures that were occurring, and now getting deep enough into flight that you're getting that data that's so needed. Booster data is, I don't want to necessarily say aplenty, but there's a lot of it. There's also a lot of ship data for operations to get to that suborbital flight path, and for being on that suborbital flight path, and now also for Starlink simulator deployment, which was very nice to not see any of them bonk on the way out. Slightly disappointed at that because I still wanted my little Death Star stormtrooper hit in the head on the way in. But you can't always get what you want. But really, that critical component that had been missing a lot was those tiles, specifically the updated tiles that are going to hopefully be used on flight that version 2 was beginning to test. So good data gathering and getting data is what test flights are all about. So I'm very happy that they are finally getting the data that truly the real data that they really need to move forward. And hopefully for version 3, a lot of those teething issues aren't actually issues, that they're handled. But also, this is a lot of new stuff. We saw what happened with a lot of new stuff with version 2. So we'll see what happens here. But I'm hoping for the best. Hopefully those lessons of version 2 are better than what came from version 1 into version 2. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll see though. We'll see though. We all have high hopes, and at the same time, I'm totally okay if they do have teething problems and experience more failure modes. My belief, my hope anyway, is that that'll all inform them so that once things are fully operational, they'll have the safest and most reliable vehicle that they possibly can. So we're certainly all rooting for that. In the meantime, though, there is a race going on for the next reusable rocket. Who's going to be next after SpaceX? And a lot of us, I think, have been rooting for and betting on Blue Origin that New Glenn is going to be the next one, and they might have a chance. They're launching the Escapade mission to Mars no earlier than November 9th. They might get pushed a couple of days, depending on a few factors, none the least of which being weather. And Ryan, do you want to talk about some of the rumors that have been going on with Blue Origin about potential damage during rollout?
Yeah, because I'm not sure where it started, to be perfectly honest with you, but there was some, tweets going around from followers with like 3, or accounts with like 3 followers, being like, the first stage is irreparably damaged when it was going vertical, blah blah blah. I'm like,
You sure?
when's
Where are you
when's
getting
this thing going? When's this thing going vertical between Exploration Park and the hangar? Right? That's what are you talking about? It turns out there were some things that have been lost in translation, and there was a legitimate, real rumor that there was some damage, but to the second stage during transport. And Eric Berger confirmed this on X. Essentially, there was a little bit of damage done to a component on the second stage. However, it is a piece which can be easily replaced. Probably has already been replaced. I don't know. I highly doubt Blue Origin will ever say anything about this, but we can assume that things are going well. Let's hope, and that they're still targeting that November 9th window for Escapade. So it doesn't look like there's going to be any sort of delays caused by this. Fingers crossed, everything continues to go smoothly. But yeah, we did get a post from Dave Limp, CEO of Blue Origin, a few days ago. A nice video inside the hangar. Always love to get one of those. And he confirmed that the mating was underway or had been completed of the first stage and the second stage, called GS1, GS2. And this is the video. And yeah, look at those beautiful BE4 engines on the base of the booster there. Just absolutely beautiful vehicle. So yeah, fingers crossed it rolls out soon for static fire. I mean, I can't wait. It's a heavy rocket November or October or heavy rocket autumn. I don't know.
Something like that.
Yeah, Rocktober.
Be waiting until winter. But yeah, hopefully everything goes well. What do you guys think, though, that the odds are that they'll actually be able to land this booster on their drone ship, the Jacqueline drone trip? I mean, I certainly want them to. I really want them to succeed, but personally, I only think they maybe have a 25% chance. What do you guys think?
Oh, that's kind of low, not gonna lie. I'm gonna say Blue definitely take the more conservative approach. I think it's safe to say, also in their thrust to weight ratio. I am actually pretty confident. Maybe I'm just on copium, but I really think they have a good shot at this one, considering all of the things that they've learned from the first flight of New Glenn, and the fact that, let's not forget, they've been landing New Shepard boosters for over a decade now. So
It's not like they have no experience.
Yeah, I'm gonna give them a good shot at sticking the landing on this one. I do feel confident. I'll say 75%.
Okay. What do you think, Jared?
I'm gonna give them 40%, mostly because this is a actual customer sitting atop the rocket, and you want something like this to work. The last thing you want to do is hear about a pair of Mars probes getting wrecked on your vehicle. So I would hope that the concentration of efforts are currently on making sure that the vehicle works. And I feel like landing is secondary to that. So there's probably, I would hope that there's a little bit of additional consideration compared to Flight 1. But at the same time, the priority here, at least to me, should be on delivering the payload to where it needs to be. And if landing happens, what a great success. But also, like, if it doesn't land correctly, as no big, as long as you learn something from it, as long as you get data, you'll be able to figure it out. And then by Flight 3, Flight 4, we should be having much higher percentages. But for me personally, I'm about 45% on where it's at. So not quite 50, not quite 40. But I'm confident, but also at the same time, if I were working on it, my priority is the payload, not the landing.
Interesting. Okay. Well, something that I would like to know is more from you folks in the chat room of what you think. Aravale says that's about where he is, closer to mine of 20 to 25%. Wouldn't be shocked, though, if they get it, but would be pleasantly surprised. Ika is giving them a little bit greater than 50%, so we'll see. JP2 says like a possibility of untouched Amazon delivery. That's one way to say it. And I did want to show this comment too. This was actually from talking about Starship, but I think it also applies to everything with New Glenn. This is from David saying, it's better to have failures and learn from them than accidental successes. And that's kind of how I feel too. Like, I would not necessarily think it would be a failure or bad if New Glenn doesn't stick the landing anytime soon, because it would be able to inform them. And as Ryan, as you brought up, they do have a lot of experience with New Shepard. I just feel like not all of it translates over with how big of New Glenn is. But that's just my armchair assessment, which is usually wrong. So,
well, there is one thing to consider with that, and that's the production rate of the booster, because it's been a considerable amount of time between the first flight and the second. Well, a considerable amount of time. They're going to do 2 in a year, which, you know, that's impressive if you consider some other more established aerospace companies. But, you know, that's still, it's much slower than Blue Origin were hoping for. And I think there's a good chance that the reason why their booster production line is set up in the way it is because they are anticipating reusing boosters. Because if they can only manufacture 1 booster every 6 to 9 months, that's way too slow to be able to operate New Glenn at the rate that they need to be operating New Glenn, right? So I believe Blue was anticipating being able to land the first booster. They want to land the second booster, so then they can refly those boosters and increase their mission rate. Because we've already seen them static fire 2 second stages in the time it's taken them to get 1 first stage to the pad or to the hangar next to the pad. So they clearly have a higher GS2 manufacturing rate than they do a GS1 manufacturing rate. So they want to be able to refly those boosters in order to keep up the mission cadence, and they have the second stages to be able to do it. And there's another thing. I'm not entirely more excited for the landing itself, but more for when the booster returns to Port Canaveral, because I don't think people appreciate just how huge that booster is going to be. This thing is double the width, double the diameter of a Falcon 9 core, and it's going to be coming in on a drone ship. Like, I'm more excited for that just because of how ginormous that booster is going to be coming back in.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, that's going to be really impressive. And you know, I remember there's a handful of times that this has happened, even with SpaceX, where they were able to stick the landing, but bad seas and the booster tipped over and all sorts of that. So yeah, you're right. That would be even more impressive to not only stick it, but bring it back in and start the work on recovering it. No Good God says that they're very confident that they'll stick the landing. And another point, there's also a lot of ex-SpaceX employees, so the knowledge is there. Joel's given them a 10% chance of landing. And again, 2 launches a year looks like a wild launch cadence if you compare it to SLS. See, that's all these launch companies got to do. They just got to compare it with SLS, and they'll already look great on paper. No, that's not fair. Speaking of SLS, the stacking has happened this week. They're stacking the Orion, encapsulated with its launch escape system and service module, onto the stack, and it's looking like this is actually going to go down coming February, possibly as late as April. But I'm really happy that they are pushing forward and finishing up these last steps before Artemis 2. So really looking forward to that. My excitement is starting to build, and all of my grumpy owneryness about SLS is starting to fade a little bit as the mission gets closer. I'm excited for it.
It's nice to see, at least despite the government shutdown, that operations are continuing those operations are continuing within NASA, as you would expect. The less fortunate thing is that some of the kind of outreach and media side of things have been mothballed because of the government shutdown. So the only actual imagery we have of the Orion being moved to the VAB is 2 images tweeted by Secretary Sean Duffy, because the NASA image and video library isn't being updated right now. But fingers crossed, whenever the government is reopened, let's not talk about the politics of it, but fingers crossed we do get some of that imagery coming in, because yeah, it's going to be pretty exciting to see a fully stacked SLS once again, even if it only happens once every 3 years.
Yeah. But even so, I mean, it's going to be, with all the criticisms that we have and the things that we could go off of, these missions are still going to be exciting. And I think that we all agree that the hope would be that the public would pay more attention to this once it does happen. And Secretary Duffy himself has brought up several times of just asking random people on the street, and they don't even know that there's a moon program right now. They know nothing about Artemis. And that was another conversation about, even before this government shutdown, of kind of the failure of NASA PR to get the public excited about this stuff. So it's a bit of a shame, but I'm really glad that he has been such a supportive voice for the space industry. We might have our criticisms still of Duffy, but I really appreciate his enthusiasm. And I wonder how much of what's going on right now, because some of you guys might have seen that Jared Isaacman might be back in the running for NASA administrator. And I would love to be a fly on the wall during those discussions. And what I'm most curious about is whether or not Secretary Duffy is willing to give up the job, or if he's trying to keep it. He seems to really enjoy it right now. What do you think about that?
I'll keep this brief as the non-American here, but it does look like Duffy much prefers his news slots on Fox News as NASA administrator than as Secretary of Transportation. But I'll leave that one there.
I think you're right about that. Despite that, though, despite everything, I do appreciate his enthusiasm for NASA. So as it gets closer to Artemis 2 next year, we'll have even more. I'm sure our excitement will be building even more for that, and looking forward to everything that's going to come out with that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the first time in my life that a crewed vehicle is going to leave the influence of the Earth.
Yeah,
that's the first time in what, 2 or 3 generations that's happened. So, man, I am super stoked about it. Man, it's expensive. Man, it don't fly very often. Man, it's been a long freaking program, but also at the same time, let's do it, baby. Let's get this thing going.
Yeah. And my hope is that once it does get going, and once it kind of breaks through the public perception, whatever you want to call it, once there's eyes on this, I feel like the support is going to start pouring in more. And somewhat normal folks are going to look at this and be like, okay, that's cool, but how come we're not doing more stuff? It's 2025. And that, my hope anyway, is that feeling will kind of allow for more support, allow for more budgeting, and allow for an attitude and a will and a spirit at NASA to hurry up and not waste the resources and the goodwill that you have right now, and push forward. We'll see. There is still a chance that the majority of the public still won't care and won't even be aware of it, but there's a chance. There is a small chance there that we could push forward in a major way after Artemis 2, and especially after Artemis 3. Arabelle, just please place a 360 camera on the outside of Orion. Massimo, this is really funny. Maybe the plot twist is that Jared becomes the new Secretary of Transportation and Duffy stays as NASA administrator.
Yeah.
Old switcheroo.
That would be
We've been
hilarious.
bamboozled.
That would be hilarious. Oh my goodness. Well, Jared, I would like to call on you and tell us a little bit about the first private space telescope that's about to launch. What is this? What's going on with this?
Yeah, tell me about it. Something that I said was impossible and never going to happen is currently possible and about to happen. And yeah, again, I love being wrong about things like this. And it's coming from a company that is still relatively new, relatively, I don't want to say relatively quiet, but been around for a bit, but they just haven't really done a lot of like big public projects yet. They're called Blue Sky Space, and they have developed a very small space telescope called MAVE, and it is a ultraviolet space telescope. The primary mirror on it is not very big at all. It is about 13 centimeters in size. So, I could stick that, could my whole hand cover that mirror? Maybe. Um, but it ain't big. Uh, and what it's going to be doing is it's going to be able to actually look out into the galactic plane as it orbits around and take imagery of what its customers may want. And it actually already has 9 colleges and universities and other scientific institutions signed up to receive data from it based upon what they ask for from Blue Sky Space. So they are literally doing a subscription service for ultraviolet uh, spectroscopy in space. So holy moly, like and you know what is the wildest thing about this to me wasn't necessarily at the fact that universities have signed up for it, because if there's a will, there's a way slash grant funding to make it happen, right? So the thing that blew my mind about it was uh, that Blue Sky Space basically said, hey, if you're a member of the public, you could sign up for it too. So you don't have to be affiliated with the university. If you're just somebody on the street, like, come on board, and
Wow.
you can sign up, subscribe, and you can receive data and request data from what we can do with this. So this is completely uncharted territory in terms of what people and institutions are going to be able to receive from a space telescope. Like,
Wow.
you could, it's not just, hey, it's not just asking people on the street if they've heard about the moon mission. You can now ask people on the street, just give me some random coordinates, and then you could, as long as it's within what MAV and Blue Sky Space say that they can image, because it's kind of limited based upon the orbit that MAV is going to be taking around the Earth. Um, you could literally ask for these random coordinates from people on the street and get stuff as well. So
Wow.
yeah, what a wild era of astronomy that could possibly be opening up right now, because there's ways for you to get time as a member of the public on big telescopes. Like, there are ways for you to apply to get time, like discretionary time, that otherwise you wouldn't really be able to get. But that's never happened with a space telescope before. Although in this case, you'll be paying for direct access to it. Now, how much does it cost? Blue Sky Space ain't saying you actually have to contact them to find out about that, and it's most certainly serious inquiries only.
I feel like it would also depend too, kind of like the Hubble, like, okay, what target do you want and how long are you wanting us to look at this for? If you're just wanting a single image, sure, we can figure out some sort of discounted plan for you. If you're wanting an observation that lasts days, weeks, something like that, so you can get whatever comparison data that you're looking for, then I'm sure it all depends in scenarios like that of what is it the customer that you're looking for and what do you want? And how much is that going to delay our other customers who are on the list who want to use it after you?
Yeah, and
did we break your brain there for a second? What were you gonna say, Jared? Uh-oh, did we lose Jared? Not sure what happened.
If his headphones have died or what.
Not sure what happened there.
Okay, hopefully I'm back.
There you go. You're back. You're back now.
Yeah, sorry. I had to go get a hat to eat real quick. So, I needed to go grab one real quick to get that. So just sorry, momentary step away from that there.
Don't worry. You can use a blender. You don't have to eat it raw.
Oh, thank you. But I got to also get my mustard to go with it too. So I got a lot of hats to eat. I got to get more than one around here somewhere. So maybe I can start a new trend, like eating pants or something. I don't know. No, that's a low blow. So we'll have to see. Yeah, I'm excited to see where this leads. Obviously, space agencies and stuff are not going to stop sending up space telescopes and like large bespoke space telescopes for specific observations. But it's very cool to finally see a private company doing something that has so far just been a public service, and we'll see what a private company can do with it, and if there actually is a market for it, which so far it looks like yes. Is it a profitable market? Don't know. We'll have to see. Right? Like there's so many big question marks on this mission, but it's just like you have to get answers to these questions to know, right? So here you go. Here's our first try to get these answers. So we're gonna have to see what ends up happening, and I'm excited. I mean, I've never seen a space telescope get packaged into a Pelican case and get sent to its launch site that way, but that's what happened with Moth because of how small it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, just a 3-unit CubeSat, right?
Yeah, that's all it is. So, which also taking a UV telescope and putting it into a 3-unit CubeSat, that's a pretty big accomplishment in and of itself. So great job to the Blue Sky Space team.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have to see. I'm sure a lot of these universities are interested, but I feel like what would answer the question for future businesses is to whether or not it'll be an ongoing thing. Will the universities use it a little bit because it's a new shiny and then they never use it again? Or will it be an ongoing thing for as long as this spacecraft might be operational for? If it's operational, hasn't even launched yet. It's going to be launching soon, though, next month on the Transporter 15 mission, I believe. Yeah, on the Transporter 15 mission, sometime next month. So once that launches and hopefully everything goes well in its deployment, then we'll see for however long that this will be able to last for. And that, I think, is going to answer the question of whether or not there's a business case here. If they're repeat customers, not just using it one time, but having a plan and getting on their schedule for a whole bunch of different stuff. And yeah, I would love to see a whole bunch more of these, even little CubeSat sized like this. And
we'll come back to this.
Gets around the other big problem.
Which is
the other big problem of astronomy on the ground and all of these Starlink fleets and similar fleets like them that have been messing things up quite a bit. And even the AST mobile ones, I feel like that's the worst offender now of how bad it's messing up ground astronomy. So this is kind of going to be a
Man,
needed thing, right?
yeah, and remember, it's not just optical astronomy as well. It's things like radio as well. People don't talk as much about radio as they do optical, but radio has just been getting absolutely hammered by satellite constellations. Like it is becoming very difficult to operate radio telescopes, period. So it's not like optical ones where we can kind of time things and try to work with that. With radio, if you're in the sky, you're messing it up. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Ooh.
it's not, oh, you've gone through my field of view. It's, oh, you are adding signal to noise across the entire damn sky from horizon to horizon. So it's really bad when you've got several hundred satellites in your sky above you for radio. So yeah, we'll have to see how that works. And radio's not one that's really been done in space a lot, simply because of the logistics of it. It's just so easy to do it on the ground that nobody's ever thought about the need of moving it to space. Most radio wavelengths come through just fine through the Earth's atmosphere, and then it's easy to make a really big dish. So not too terribly difficult. So yeah.
Here's a really cool thought from Massimo. Now imagine if this goes well and the company mass produces them and shotgun orbits them in a single transporter launch. That would be cool.
That
One
would be
can
pretty
hope.
cool.
I'm sure that company is
Yeah, and
hoping for that.
I have often thought about this idea of like a fleet of little itty bitty satellites, and then they're all on the same wavelength, not just figuratively, but literally, in terms of observation, and combining all that light together to create a larger view from a larger telescope, which is called interferometry, which we do all the time down here on Earth. So it would be very, very interesting to be able to pull that off. But it requires a tremendous amount of precision, and doing that kind of precision flying in space is very, very difficult.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you, Jared. See here, we can stop that. Let's actually play a clip of this Soyuz engine test. And before I blow out everyone's ears, I'm going to make sure that this is muted so that we don't have to listen to, yeah, and we don't have to hear the engine roar over the hymn of the Soviet Union. Yeah, okay. This should work. This should work. Okay, here we go. unless you want to sing it together, shall we try? No, just kidding. Just kidding.
I don't know it right offhand.
But yeah, this was the test firing of the engine for the Soyuz 5. This is the RD-171, the most latest evolved version, 171-M. And for those who have followed Russian engine development, this engine was originally developed for the Energia boosters on the Energia Buran launcher. And they reused those engines on the Zenit rocket and made a variation of them, the RD-180s, that we've had many discussions about on this show about the powerhouse of the Atlas V rockets. The RD-180s are a 2-nozzle variant, and the RD-171s are a 4-nozzle variant. And even this test hand apparently hasn't been used in quite some time, and local residents were a bit surprised that there even was a test. But with this, they are moving right along, because the Soyuz 5 rocket, also named Irtish, also named Phoenix, also named Sunkar, they've had a lot of different weird code names for this. It's a Kerolox engine. It's going to be using RP1, refined kerosene, and liquid oxygen. So standard of what they're using, but it's going to replace the Zenit rocket initially, and eventually will replace the Proton rocket. So there is a bit riding on this. They already have the Angara rocket, but it's not as powerful as they would have hoped that it was going to be. And unfortunately, development with that has been a weird thing, and there's been issues with the types of upper stages that they wanted to use for it, and it just hasn't turned out to be as capable of a rocket as they were hoping for. It kind of ended up being more in the medium class instead of the heavy and super heavy class. But with Soyuz 5, the plan is to eventually cluster them together like a Falcon Heavy, but way more than a Falcon Heavy. Instead of just a core booster and then 2 boosters on the side, there'd be a core booster and 6 boosters around the side of it that would be dropped in stages. So there's some sort of weird fuel transfer that they might want to do with that, because the plan would be that they would drop 2 of those boosters at a time until it's just the core stage left in its flight. So I'm not 100% sure how they are planning on accomplishing that. But that's, as of right now, what they're doing. And with that, I'm not sure how it's exactly pronounced. I think it's Yensei, Yensei, if you'd like to look that up and learn more information about their plans for this super heavy Soyuz 5 rocket. That there might even be some plans to turn it into a reusable vehicle someday. But for now, replace a lot of their aging systems and components that were using Ukrainian manufacturing, so that everything would just be from Russia. If everything goes well, we might see the first flight of Soyuz 5. They had hoped to launch it before the end of this year. I don't think that's happening, with this being the first static fire of just the engines. They might be able to achieve it next year, but even with that, their super heavy Yensei version wouldn't debut until 2033 at the earliest, if everything goes well. So this is still something that is a slow development and has been ongoing for quite some time. The first time I heard about anything from this program was like 2012, and I think it was already ongoing before that at some point. So I'm excited to see this, though. I'm looking forward to what they might be able to achieve and continue with the Luna Glob program and participating in the International Lunar Village and a few other potential missions to Phobos that they might do someday as well. So still hoping that they will have a successful program with this. Any thoughts or feelings about this, Ryan? Especially, I feel like you have comments about this.
I'm just the thing with Soyuz 5 is, I'm not opposed to a new rocket, right? Of course I want to see a brand new rocket, and Soyuz 5 has been it feels like it's been in development forever at this point. It's nice to actually finally see something fire, right? I'm just confused why they've called it Soyuz, because it has like nothing to do with the Soyuz family, which has been flying for, since the 1950s, or the R7 derived rockets, right? It has nothing to do with what we've come to know now as the Soyuz 2.1. And now they're calling it Soyuz 5, and it's like, okay, it's a new Soyuz rocket, but it's not got the Soyuz in it. Like, it's a separate.
And where does the 5 come from? They're flying Soyuz 2 right now, and
where's
instead
3
of
and 4?
Yeah, where's 3 and 4? And we're not going off of Falcons, of how many engines are on the bottom there. Where's the 5 come from? I don't understand it. I'd much prefer the old codenames, Phoenix or Sunkar. Phoenix is just awesome, and Sunkar is a Kazakhstanian for Falcon, is what that word actually means. So I would much prefer those names. I would much prefer those names.
It'd be rather funny to have a Falcon 9 and Falcon, but in Kazakhstani.
Yeah. Kazakhstani. Thank you. But yeah, same feeling though. Excited to see some sort of development. This finally. If everything does work out, the cool thing about it is they will be able to use a lot of their existing upper stages that they use on Proton right now, Block DM, or my favorite, the Breeze M. The diameter and the way that they do their inner staging, it would just be a perfect fit to swap out. So if everything goes well for them, they might actually have an extremely powerful vehicle when this comes out. Not as powerful as Starship, but very capable in terms of what orbits it can reach and the delta V that it can do depending on its payloads and all that. But I don't know. Breeze M is my favorite upper stage, and in my opinion, one of the most capable. I feel like it might even be a little bit better than Centaur, and that could get me crucified, but it just the math checks out. Anyway, beyond that though, should we talk about Impulse Space and their announcement that they made this week? Ryan, I kind of feel like I would like you to kind of take this up. I do have a couple of pictures prepared that we can show for this. But yeah, do you want to tell us what's going on with this and where this announcement is coming from?
Yeah, so in case you missed it, Tom Mueller, legendary propulsion engineer, basically built the Merlin for SpaceX, posted a blog post on the Impulse Space website. Impulse Space is his new company. It was founded a little while ago at this point, but essentially they've been developing space targets and on-orbit vehicles. So they have Mira, which is their current on-orbit vehicle, which they've successfully flown twice to date. They're still operating in space. And they are developing Helios, which is going to be a Methalox, basically a third stage that you can attach, or an upper stage that you can put on top of a Falcon 9 or a Terran R or something like that. And that is going to be allowing kind of same day delivery to geostationary orbit, which is pretty much unheard of in terms of this scale. And they've already got a lot of customers and a lot of people very interested in using Mira and Helios. But there's another destination which is very exciting at the moment, a hot topic, which is, of course, the moon. And we have a load of small landers for the commercial lunar destination or commercial lunar payload services CLPS contract, which NASA's been running for a while now. But they're kind of like hundreds of kilos, that sort of range. Blue Ghost from Firefly, which successfully landed. I think it's the only one to successfully land and, stay upright.
So far.
So far, not looking at you, Intuitive Machines, but their lander is only capable of just over 200 kilos for some context. And then there's also the human landing systems, which NASA has purchased, Starship and the Blue Moon Mark II from Blue Origin. Blue Moon Mark II can do 30 tons. Starship, Elon, of course, wants it to do 100 tons. So, 100 tons, 200 kilos. There's a bit of a gap there in the middle, which is what Tom Mueller says that Impulse Space is going to fill, and they are going for a 3-ton lander. So not super heavy payloads, not super light payloads, but that kind of niche in the middle. So Helios is slated, I think, on a Falcon 9 to be capable of 4 tons to geo. So I think that kind of gives you an idea of how bulky this lander compares. If Helios, the kick stage, can do 4 tons, and the lander can do 3 tons, then there's about a ton in there for the lander, roughly, math sort of checks out. But there you go. These are some wonderful renders of it from Impulse Space. And yeah, it's pretty exciting to see them developing a lander, which is going to be landing on the moon no earlier than 2028, which is pretty exciting. To turn something like this around in 2 years, that's going to be quite an effort. And they're repurposing essentially a lot of the technology they've been using to develop Mira and develop Impulse. So, for example, the thrusters you see there on the top by the solar panels, those are I'm not sure if they're going to be exactly reusing these same thrusters from the Mira spacecraft or if they're like an evolution of them, but the technology is derived nonetheless. So it's pretty exciting to see another lunar lander on the way, especially from a company which is pretty impressive with what it's achieved so far. And yeah, it's exciting to see where things will go from here.
Absolutely. And I feel like in the announcement, Tom Mueller was even saying that they would be able to do 2 flights of these a year starting in 2028. And in that capability, that kind of 3-ton capability, plus or minus, you wouldn't be able to do a human landing mission with that unless it was a bare bones 1-person capsule or something like that. But for like the unpressurized rovers or communication equipment, battery equipment, other types of supplies, if we're getting serious about building a base or some sort of infrastructure on the moon. So it does kind of fit a niche there, a niche for the type of payloads that NASA and scientists and governments around the world would like to send. But as you said, the CLPS vehicles are a little bit too small. Best one can only do about 0.5 ton if it's even successful. And then the human landing systems are a lot of cargo. So I do like these ideas of seeing kind of this in between and start filling the gaps in capability and start taking little steps. It feels like SpaceX with Starship has kind of leapfrogged the generations of landers that we might have had by 20, 30 years. I don't even know how much, but definitely skipped a generation of landers going to these huge landers like Starship and even Blue Moon Mark II. So I like that other companies are developing things like this. And for those of you that may remember, this isn't the first time that Impulse Space has looked at landers. They actually had a deal of not long after their founding with Relativity Space to develop a lander for Mars. And haven't heard anything about it in a long, long time, but I feel like that this might lead to stuff because the Helios can not only fit on a Falcon 9, it could also fit on a Terran R and be encapsulated within their payload fairings and not be, sticking out beyond the diameter of their second stage. So there's still the possibility that Relativity Impulse Space Mars mission could happen. In the meantime, I'd be really happy to see missions like this happen.
Yeah, and I think it would be interesting to see what becomes of that Mars mission. Especially, I don't want to be like Debbie Downer and say it's never going to happen, but I'd be interesting to see what happens with that, considering that between the time of that announcement and today, Relativity has been purchased by Eric Schmidt, and they've had a little bit of a rejig. They're still obviously working on Terran R, but like they've just had a little bit of a rejig. Seems like they've had a little bit of a different public media strategy. They're doing these monthly updates now, which is great. We love them. We get to actually see what the company is working on. But it'll be interesting to see if Mars is still something that Schmidt is interested in, because he has spoken before about his kind of desire for like on-orbit AI data centers and server farms and things like that. So it's going to be interesting to see whether he wants to use Relativity simply just to serve that purpose of putting stuff into Earth orbit, or to actually send stuff to destinations further afield.
Yeah. And even on the subject, when that first started getting floated around and discussed about data centers, I thought that was kind of silly. But seeing the amount of resources that we're putting into them and the amount of resources they would continuously demand during operation, I'm starting to like this idea of data centers more and more and more. And there's all sorts of discussions that I'm seeing about radiation and not radiation, but how to radiate heat and deal with the heat that they would generate. And there's all sorts of fruitful discussions and ways that can be dealt with in a not. I want to say easy. It's not easy. It would be hard. It would be expensive, but easier than people might think. So I'm all for data centers in space and would love to get rid of not just the electricity use on the ground, but the water use on the ground. So I'm all for that. And he obviously has something in mind. Eric Schmidt is a very savvy silver fox type of guy. He doesn't seem like the type to make stupid business decisions. So I think that he's banking on and has access to more information than we do that has made him do this push and this giant investment in taking over Relativity and pushing them forward to their goals. So also very not excited, but happy and pleased that they have been continuing to put out their monthly updates and the progress that's happening with them. I'm really, really glad that they've been able to continue doing that.
Mike, I've joked about on my Blue Sky about humanity becoming a Kardashev Type 2 civilization just to handle data centers in space. So
we become a Kardashev Type 2 just to support our AI slop. Oh man.
Yeah.
However progress happens, right?
Yeah, just so that everybody can jump online and be like, Gork, is this true? I just have these visions of these radio waves going out at the speed of light, just screaming across the solar system, hitting a data center, coming back, and being like, community note on this, like you just did like a 45-minute round trip for a community note on something.
Just to tell social media that this is a fake video. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, turns out this one's turns out the thing you heard on Facebook from your 65-year-old aunt is not true. Who'd have thought?
Hey, I mean, I guess that would be par for the course, right? I mean, even today we have the access to all of the world's information. All of human knowledge is in our pocket, and what's the meme? We use it most of the time for cat videos.
Well, how could you
Anyway.
not?
Yeah. So why would we change in 100 years? We're going to be doing the same
Because,
silly
you know what?
stuff.
We'll become a type 1 civilization for cat videos. And then once we need all those AI slot data centers, then we'll hit type 2. So I don't know what type 3 will be, though.
That's
So,
when we are the AI. And preferably
actually,
with
would be
cat
like,
robotic bodies.
Go figure. So.
Oh, man. By the way, chat room is bringing up a Starlink mission launched while we've been speaking, and booster 1067 has just landed for the 31st time. So go booster 1067. Does that make them the fleet leader now, or it would?
Yeah,
Show
this
off.
is a brand new record. World record has been set for the 31st time for the most number of booster landings.
Yeah. And I feel like for the 500th time this year, we've gotten an announcement about the amount of landings. We have 500 landings now, actually now 501 landings of just Falcon 9 boosters, not counting Falcon Heavy. And I am so excited for next year when they do it all again for all of the 600th time milestones.
Breaking news, Falcon 9 is launched on a Tuesday for the 500th time. Oh, brilliant.
I keep thinking, like, there's a really great Simpsons joke once that had like 25th anniversary, we're halfway there, you know. And I keep thinking like 500th landing, we're halfway there, you know, like, but
but nobody knows what the goal is.
Nobody really knows what's going on.
Yeah.
We just know that there's numbers and they're coming in hot. So
oh my goodness. Well, believe we have one more.
You know what? You should call me back when they do 100 in a month.
100 in a month. Oh, geez. Oh. Well, then again, we might get there once all the Starship tanker flights start happening. So that give us a couple of years. That might be a reality. You're lucky that Pope Photon Empress isn't here to declare you a heretic. Awesome. Hey, big thank you to Dave Avery for just gifting 5 YouTube memberships. And with a YouTube membership, if you just got that gifted for the first time, you'll be able to join us for After Dark right after this, where we're going to keep the conversation going a little bit more lackadaisical and not necessarily have as much structure. But I do want to thank every single person who has been supporting us thus far in our membership program. It starts at system support for $1 a month, and at the second level, ground support, is when you start getting your name in the show and access to After Dark and other members only exclusives. So thank you to everyone who has been supporting us for some of you have been supporting us for many years now, and we are eternally grateful to each and every one of you for your support in allowing us to do this show and to keep going. So thank you very much. After Dark will be coming up right after this, and we will continue the conversation and talk about a few other things that have been going on in the space industry and amongst us for tomorrow here. So I hope that you'll be able to join us right after this. And for those that just got your membership, you should get a notification once that goes live. And for everyone else who already is a member, you should already see a created session for that, which we'll be going over to momentarily. So before we do go, Ryan, did you kind of related to that last trivia question? Did you want to give us a brief update about what has happened with this environmental study and why it matters for Slick 6?
Yeah, well, in brief, essentially, it's been going on for a long time now, like since 2023, so well over 2 years now. Essentially, there has been an environmental review into SpaceX using Space Launch Complex 6 at Vandenberg as a Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy, Jared, launch site, maybe if the Air Force, if the Space Force ever want Falcon Heavy from Vandenberg, just saying it can come back. It might actually happen this time. I don't know, but they have essentially approved SpaceX to demolish all of the shuttle era hardware and build SpaceX Falcon hardware, a new hangar, a new rail system. But the Falcon's still going to be on the launch. The launch mount for Falcon is still going to be in the same area where it was for Delta IV and for Shuttle. So any consolation there, I don't know. But they will be building 2 landing zones at Slick 6. So Falcon Heavy is in the cards. Just saying, we could see Falcon Heavy from Vandenberg if the Space Force ever wants it. It was kind of a deal, you know. SpaceX can have Slick 6 if they build it for Falcon Heavy in case the DoD ever wants it. But you know, whether it will happen, I don't know. But it's more realistic than it is at Slick 4 East, at least.
That's for sure. All right.
Yeah, I'm just never going to forgive them for not doing Falcon Heavy test flight like they originally scheduled, nor the booster flight as well, the abort test that they were supposed to do for Crew Dragon as well out of Vandenberg. So don't forget that one.
I
Never
forgot
forgive
about
them
that.
for that either. So
Wow.
you've let me down so many times, at least twice.
Well,
So,
it's still in the cards. Still in the cards.
Yeah.
And they've been approved for 100 launches a year now. So we might still get that site someday.
yeah,
At least if the booster's coming back.
We'll see if it's better than a Delta IV Heavy was, having seen multiple Delta IV Heavies in my life
Well, I think that we should
here out at Vandy, which were spectacular.
yeah. Well, why don't we tell some stories about that of those flights and which ones we've actually traveled to see? I know you've got quite a few Vandenberg stories, so let's talk about that in After Dark. Thank you again to everyone for joining us today. Sorry for the technical difficulties that we experienced, and thank you for working with us and being able to hop back over to this one. We'll have an edited version very, very soon that should be a bit better. So thank you for bearing with us and our putting up with our usual goofball behavior that we seem to not be able to shake. So thank you again, and we will see you guys on the next one. After Dark is coming up in just a few minutes. Take care, everyone.